I'm sorry, but your name isn't on the guest list. Her words hit me hard, like someone had slapped me. I just stood there, holding my purse tightly, my breath caught in my throat. The receptionist, a young woman with perfectly straight blonde hair and a fake polite smile, looked at me with what felt like pity. I hated that look. There must be some mistake, I said, forcing a small, polite smile. I kept my voice calm, but inside, I felt something twist. The bride is my sister. She paused, her fingers hovering over the paper. She looked at me, then back down at the list, scanning the names again. But I had already seen it, in her face, that quick flicker of doubt. She wasn't going to find my name. My stomach sank. "Can you please check again?" I asked, gripping, the gift bag tighter in my hand. She nodded quickly and flipped through the pages, like she might have missed something the first time. Every second felt longer than the last. I could hear soft music and the clinking of glasses coming from the ballroom behind me. Then her face changed. I recognized that look. It was the kind people had right before giving bad news. She spoke softly, almost like she felt bad for me. "I'm really sorry, Miss Harrier, but your name just isn't here." I took a deep breath, trying to keep it together. "That can't be right," I said. "Betty is my sister. I have to be on that list." She glanced around, like she was checking to see if anyone else was listening. Then, in a voice so quiet I could barely hear it, she said, "It wasn't a mistake. Your mother asked us to take your name off the list." All I could hear now was the sound of my own heartbeat rushing in my ears. I stared at her, sure I had misunderstood. "I'm sorry." "What?" She looked away, clearly uncomfortable. "Your mother told the event team not to let you in, no matter what," she said quietly. I really am sorry." She sounded like she didn't know what else to say. That's the word she used, I thought. My own mother had purposely erased me from my sister's wedding, and all this girl could call it was awkward. A cold, empty feeling spread through me, pushing out the first sting of pain. "I see," I said, quietly, swallowing hard. But I didn't really understand, not completely. Yes, my mom always liked Betty more. That was obvious. But cutting me out completely, acting like I didn't exist on one of the biggest days in our family's life. Even for her, this was a new kind of hurt. I stood still for a moment, my heart pounding so loudly it filled my ears. I thought about turning around, going inside, and demanding answers. I could walk into that ballroom and make a scene. But what would that do? My mom would act shocked and pretend she didn't know anything. Would Betty look at me surprised, realizing what happened too late? Or worse, what if she already knew and didn't care? I pushed that thought away. I wasn't going to embarrass myself in front of all these people. It was clear I wasn't wanted here, so I wasn't going to stay. I looked down at the gift in my hands. It was a soft white blanket I had made myself, with tiny blue flowers stitched into it. It took me 3 months to finish. The colors matched the blanket our dad gave to our mom as a wedding gift. It used to be a symbol of love and family. Now that same family had shut me out like I didn't matter. Slowly, I walked over to the check-in counter. The concierge stared at me with curious eyes, trying not to show it too much. "Please make sure the bride gets this," I said, placing the bag gently on the table. The card tied to it was simple. "For Betty, wishing you happiness." That was all. I adjusted my purse strap and turned toward the large glass doors that led outside. As soon as my heels clicked on the marble floor, I could feel it. People were watching me. Some whispered. The weight of shame pressed down on my chest. But I kept walking. I stood tall, trying not to let it show. Outside, the night air hit my skin, cool and sharp. The street buzzed with a soft noise of cars passing by. Headlights flashed across the sidewalk from a nearby rooftop bar. Laughter and clinking glasses floated into the air. People were celebrating, but not me. I was never meant to be part of that celebration. I took a deep breath. My hands shook a little as I reached into my purse for my phone. Really, I shouldn't have been shocked. This wasn't the first time my mom had made me feel invisible. Growing up, I was always the one people forgot. Betty was the favorite, the perfect one. I was the serious one, the one whose career wasn't flashy enough, the one who had to put her own dreams aside to take care of our dad when he got sick. I had used my savings to help Eddie get through law school. And after our dad passed away, I honestly thought maybe my mom and I had finally started to connect. But love in our family was never just love. It always came with conditions, and I was never seen as good enough. I let out a short breath and held my phone tightly. My finger hovered over Betty's number. Did she know? Did she realize I had been left out of her wedding? That our mom had decided I wasn't important enough to be there? I paused. Then, before I could change my mind, I tapped the screen and called her. The phone rang once, then twice, a third time. Then it went to voicemail. She didn't even pick up. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then shoved the phone back into my purse. I should have expected that. Maybe Betty was just busy. Maybe she didn't know what Mom had done. Or maybe she knew the whole time. That thought made my stomach twist. I turned away from the hotel and stepped toward the curb to call a cab. I wouldn't cry. Not here, not now. But one thing was clear. If they had pushed me out of their lives, I would make sure they regretted it. Because this wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning. The cab ride home felt like a blur. City lights flashed by outside the window. Neon signs lit up the streets in colors, but I hardly noticed. My fingers tapped against my purse. My thoughts raced with questions and what-ifs. I could still hear the receptionist's voice. "Your mother personally asked to have your name removed." Breathed out slowly. My chest felt tight. I rested my forehead against the cold window. My mom hadn't just left me out of a wedding. She had erased me from what family was supposed to mean. And the worst part? I should have seen it coming. My mom, Laura Harrier, had never hidden the fact that I was a burden to her. Betty had always been the favorite, the perfect daughter who never made mistakes, the one who did everything right. She went to the best schools, got a fancy law degree, and was marrying someone with a big name. And me? I was always the second choice. The girl who chose nursing, which wasn't glamorous enough for my mom. The daughter who spent her best years taking care of our dying dad instead of chasing big dreams. I was never enough for her. But what hurt the most wasn't just that she favored Betty. It was the truth I was just now starting to see. I wasn't simply forgotten. I had been removed. On purpose. I took out my phone and started scrolling through old messages. Texts from years ago that suddenly felt different. "Hey, I sent you a birthday gift. Let me know if you got it. Thinking of you today. Let's catch up soon. Read at 8:30 p.m. No reply. Hope the bar exam went well. I'm so proud of you. Never delivered." For years I told myself Betty was just busy. Law school, work. It must have been a lot for her. But now I wondered, what if she never got those texts? What if Mom had been blocking everything, keeping me far from Betty's life? What if I had become just a ghost of a sister, someone she barely remembered? I shoved my phone back into my purse, fighting the sick feeling rising in my throat. I needed to stop wondering and start finding the truth, and I knew exactly where to begin. As soon as I got home, I went straight to my bookshelf. Hidden between old medical books and half-read novels was a small wooden box. I pulled it down with steady hands, even though my chest felt like it was on fire. Inside were neatly folded papers, receipts, bank statements, and copies of every check I had written for Betty over the years. I had paid for her tuition, I covered her rent when she was struggling in law school. I even bought her textbooks. Gave up my savings, my safety, and my own plans, all so she could have a better life. And in return, they erased me. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. I didn't want to waste my energy on emotions that wouldn't help me. This wasn't just about being hurt. This was about being robbed. I placed the box on my desk and opened my laptop. If my mother had worked this hard to erase me, I was going to make sure she would never forget what she did. I didn't want revenge, just to get even. I wanted truth. I wanted fairness. I wanted my mother to finally understand. I'm not someone who disappears quietly. So I started searching. I went through financial records, digging deep into bank statements. I tracked every dollar I had sent to Betty. I looked at emails, old messages from Mom back when she still acted like I was part of the family. I opened legal files, including one I had saved after my father passed away. The file that listed his life insurance payout. And that's when I found it. A large deposit, money that was supposed to come to me from my dad's insurance. But it had never shown up in my account. My heart stopped as I clicked further. The money had been sent somewhere else, signed over, to a different name, Laura Harrier, my mother. My stomach turned. She didn't just take my money, she stole my future. She stole the one thing Dad had left for me. She stole my chances, my freedom, my ability to build something for myself. And worst of all, she used it for what? To give Betty the perfect life? All to keep the perfect Harrier family image alive? My hands tightened into fists. I had spent years feeling guilty, thinking I chose this life, believing I gave up everything for Betty because I wanted to. But now I saw the truth. I was never given a choice at all. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I kept searching for answers. I called my bank. I looked through credit reports. I reached out to an old account my dad used to trust. Little by little, the full truth started to come together. The life insurance money that was meant for me, sent somewhere else. The college fund I had helped build for Betty, emptied without my knowledge. All those birthday gifts, letters, and messages I sent Betty over the years, they were never delivered. My mother, Laura Harrier, had worked for years to erase me, to make me invisible. I was nothing more than a bank machine to her. No voice. No place in the family, no value, and now she had done the final thing. She made sure I wasn't even invited to the wedding, the one day that was supposed to be about family and togetherness. She erased me completely, but what she didn't know was that I had just found everything I needed to tear her fake story apart. I stared at my laptop. All the evidence was right there on the screen, and it felt powerful, like holding a loaded weapon. Now I could finally show the truth to Betty, to the wedding guests, to the world. My mother worked so hard to impress. She built her image on lies. I could destroy it with just one email, but I wasn't going to rush it. She took years to lie and cover things up. I'd take my time revealing the truth. And when the moment came, when she least expected it, I'd make sure Laura Harrier knew what it felt like to be forgotten, to be treated like nothing. Because the one thing she never saw coming was this. I don't just disappear. I fight back. I sat in the glow of my laptop screen. The light cast strange shadows on the walls around me. Everything was right there. Every wire transfer, every stolen deposit, every dollar of my father's life insurance that was supposed to be mine, taken by my own mother. Laura Harrier had carefully planned my removal from the family. And now, she was probably smiling, thinking she had won, that I had finally faded away for good. But she was wrong. I had always known she was cold. But now I saw how far she would go to look perfect in public, wearing her fake smile like a fancy coat, waiting for people to admire her. I didn't even have to wonder where she was the morning after the wedding. I knew exactly where she'd be. Sitting at brunch at the Club Wyden, acting like nothing ever happened. Her favorite place for rich women to gossip. The kind of place women like Laura loved. In her world, reputation was everything. It was like the air they breathed, the money they spent, and the weapon they used to protect their perfect image. And me? I had always been the stain she tried to erase. I could already picture her sitting there, looking perfect in her cream-colored cashmere outfit, pearls shining in the morning light as she sipped her expensive tea. Surrounded by her usual group, all smiling and nodding, talking about Betty's perfect wedding, talking about how happy Laura must be that everything went smoothly, talking about how sad it was that I had chosen not to attend. I clenched my jaw. The anger burned inside me. Laura had always been untouchable. She built her power with lies, stolen money, and manipulation. But every castle has cracks, and I was about to find hers. By noon, I had collected everything I needed. Bank records, money transfers, financial papers, even old emails she had once carelessly sent me, just enough for me to connect the dots. But I wasn't going to take her down in anger. That wasn't my way. I was going to let her feel safe first. And then, I'd take it all away from her. I picked up my phone. For the first time in months, I called my mother. She answered on the third ring. Her voice was calm and smooth, like she had already planned what to say. "Barbara, I wasn't expecting your call." "Of course not." She thought she had erased me for... "Good. I thought it was time we talked," I said, keeping my tone steady. "Maybe we could meet." There was a pause. I heard the quiet sound of her sipping tea. "Meet? Whatever for." "To clear the air," I said. I let those words hang there just long, enough for her to feel unsure. Laura loved control, but she also loved the idea of winning, and right now, she believed she had already won. So, just like I expected, she said yes. "Fine," she said, her voice cold and sharp. "Let's meet." I got to the Club Wyden Dam first. It looked just how I remembered, fancy, old, full of secrets hidden behind white tablecloths and overpriced drinks. When Laura walked in, she looked like she was glowing. Her walk, her smile, everything about her said she felt powerful. "Barbara," she said, sitting down across from me with perfect ease. She didn't hug me. She didn't even pretend. "You look well," she added. But the look in her eyes said she expected me to look ruined, broken. Instead, I smiled. "So do you." I lied. I let her enjoy the moment. Let her believe that she had won, that I was here to ask for forgiveness, to make peace on her terms. I gave her exactly 10 minutes to enjoy that lie. Then I broke it. "You know," I said, placing my phone gently on the table, "I never really thought you'd cut me out completely." Laura raised an eyebrow and took a sip of her tea. "You cut yourself out, darling," she said calmly. "You were always the difficult one." That's how she explained everything. That's how she made herself feel right. Stealing from me. Lying. To me, pushing me out of the family. She called it discipline. She said it was a lesson I needed. But I knew the truth now. I reached into my purse and pulled out a single sheet of paper. I slid it across the table to her. Her face stayed calm at first, until she looked down. Until she saw what it was. A copy of the life insurance payment. The one that was meant for me but sent to her instead. The color drained from her face. I tilted my head slightly, watching her body tense up. Her fingers tightened around the teacup, as if holding onto her palm could fix everything. "That money was supposed to be mine," I said softly but firmly. "Dad wanted me to have it." She didn't answer right away, but I saw something change in her eyes. The pride, the arrogance. It flickered. "I did what was best for the family," she finally said. But her voice didn't sound as strong anymore. "No," I replied, leaning in just a little. You did what was best for you. Then, for the first time, I saw something rare in her. It wasn't fear of me. It was fear of losing control. Because she knew. She knew I had the power now. I could ruin her reputation. I'm not here to argue, Mother, I said, keeping my eyes on her. I'm here to give you a choice. She scoffed, trying to act like it didn't bother her. A choice? Yes, I said. My voice was steady. Either you fix what you broke, or I will. I let the silence fill the space between us. Let her feel the weight of what I just said, because I wasn't lying. I had proof enough to make sure that everyone in her fancy social group would know exactly who she really was. She could try to fight it. She could tell another lie. But deep down, she knew the truth. This time, she couldn't win. Her hand shook, a little as she reached for her tea. She covered it well, but I saw it. I saw the moment Laura Harrier realized she had lost control. Fine, she finally said. Her voice was thin and cold. What do you want? I smiled. Now we were getting somewhere. Laura Harrier had spent her whole life controlling stories, twisting the truth so people believed her lies. She thought her power would last forever. But not anymore. She believed her reputation could never be touched, that she could twist the truth however she wanted. She was wrong. And today, she was about to find out just how wrong she was. She stared at me from across the table, her perfectly done nails pressed against the edge of the paper. It was the proof I had given her, the life insurance payout that was meant for me but had somehow ended up in her bank account. Her face gave nothing away. But I knew her too well. The tightness in her jaw, the slow, steady breaths. She was thinking fast, trying to decide what move to make. Should she lie? Should she play innocent again? I didn't say anything. I let the silence stretch, out between us like a rope she was slowly choking on. Then she placed the paper down, folded her hands, and gave me a cold, fake smile. You're being dramatic, Barbara. A laugh rose in my throat. I didn't expect her to break down right away, but calling this dramatic, even with clear proof in front of her. Dramatic, I repeated, tilting my head. Mom, you took money that legally belonged to me. How is that dramatic? She looked at me like I was a child throwing a tantrum. I did what I had to do, she said smoothly. Your father left things in a mess. There were bills, responsibilities. I did what was best for the family. No, I said calmly but firmly. You did what was best for you. I saw a flash of anger in her eyes. Her calm mask started to slip. Let's be honest, I said, leaning in just a little. You never thought I'd find out, did you? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. That silence told me everything. She had counted on me staying quiet, staying small. She had spent years making me feel invisible. She never imagined a version of me that would stand up to her. So she finally said, clearing her throat and forcing another smile, What exactly do you want? It was the same line she used before, but this time there was fear in her voice. I didn't answer right away. I let her sit with that fear, let her feel what it was like to not be in control. I want my money, I said clearly. Every last cent. She scoffed. You can't be serious. I pulled out another sheet of paper and slid it across the table. It was a legal demand letter from a lawyer I had contacted the night before. It listed everything she had taken. It included all the proof. And it explained the legal consequences if she didn't pay it back. Her eyes moved quickly over the page. She tried to keep a straight face, but I saw her hands shake slightly as she placed the letter down. You'd really go through with this? She asked. Her voice was softer now. You left me no choice, I said. Then came silence, a heavy, long pause. I saw the truth finally hit her. This wasn't just a threat, it was a promise. She could still try to fight me. She could try to slow things down. But in the end, she would lose. And for someone like Laura Harrier, losing was her biggest fear. The next day I got a text from Betty. "Barbara, Mom's acting strange. Keeps asking about you. What's going on?" I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied, "Me?" She finally got caught. A moment later, she replied again. "Betty caught doing what? What are you talking about?" "Me." Ask her. Because if there was one thing Laura had never planned for, it was her perfect daughter learning the truth. And I was ready to let that happen. It only took 4 days. 4 days for everything to fall apart. 4 days before Betty showed up at my door, angry and demanding answers. 4 days before the walls my mother built began to collapse. "Tell me she's lying," Betty said, holding the papers I gave her. They showed every payment for her school, every gift, all of it paid from the money that had been stolen from me. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. Because deep down she already knew. I watched as it sank in, the truth hitting her like a wave, a lifetime of lies falling apart right in front of her. She always told me, "You just disappeared," Betty whispered. She said, "You didn't care, that you were too busy for us." I clenched my jaw. "Yeah," I said. "And what do you believe now?" She held the papers tighter. "I believe you." And just like that, Laura lost her favorite child. Betty was the one who went to her. I didn't need to be there. I already knew how it would play out. Laura would deny it, twist the story, pretend to be the victim. But Betty wasn't the same person she was a week ago. And the moment she looked our mother in the eye and said, "I know what you did," it was over. Laura's power was never real. It only worked because people believed she was too perfect to question. Once that belief broke, so did she. By the end of the week, I had my money back. Laura fought it. She delayed. She begged. Even offered me hush money to stay quiet. But I said no. Because this was never just about money. It was about making her face the truth. And lose the one thing she cared about most, her perfect image. Now Betty knew. And soon, everyone else would too. I didn't have to destroy her. She did that to herself. I was no longer foolish enough to believe Laura would ever change. People, like her, don't change. They just find new ways to control others, new people to lie to, new stories to tell. But this time, she had no one left. When I saw Betty walk away from her, when I saw the fear in my mother's eyes as she realized she had truly lost, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. She had tried to erase me. She stole from me. She changed the past to make me feel like I didn't matter. But in the end, she was the one who became nothing. And me? I finally got to start fresh, the way I wanted. Without her, Laura Harrier had spent her whole life building a false image. She acted like the perfect mother, the grieving widow, a classy woman who could do no wrong. But the thing about fake images, they only work if no one looks too closely. And now, everyone was looking. It started small. People whispered behind her back, friends stopped calling, invitations were ignored. And in the world she lived in, that was the worst thing of all. She used to be admired, respected. Now she was something else, a scandal. Betty stopped answering her calls. Even the wedding guests had heard the rumors. At the Club Widenham, the same place where my mother was once treated like royalty, she suddenly had no seat, no welcome. She had spent years building power and influence, and it took less than a week to lose it all. I thought I would feel proud. But watching her lose everything piece by piece didn't feel as good as I expected. Because I realized something. She was already empty. She had tried so hard to erase me, to control Betty, that when we walked away, she had nothing left. No family, no power, no one. For a while, I thought I wanted revenge, but what I really wanted was freedom. Once my inheritance was returned, I could have done anything. I could have left the city. I could have walked away forever. The same way, my mother had tried to erase me from her life, but I didn't. Instead, I rebuilt my life the way it was meant to be. I moved into a new apartment when I could afford it without worry. I left this stressful hospital job and accepted a position at a private clinic where I felt appreciated. I traveled. I read books. I lived, really lived, for the first time in my life. I started choosing things for me, not to please anyone, not to sacrifice, just because I wanted to. Betty took longer to heal, and I didn't blame her. She had spent her whole life under our mother's control, believing every lie she was told. It takes time to unlearn that. But slowly, Betty began to see who our mother really was. At first, it was small things. She paused before answering Mom's calls. She stopped defending her all the time. Then, one evening, Betty showed up at my apartment. She stood at my door, hands in the pockets of her fancy coat. "I can't believe I didn't see it before," she said quietly. Her voice was tired and honest. I let her in, made us some coffee, and for the first time in years, we talked like real sisters. Not as two women stuck in a rivalry. Not as Laura Harrier's daughters. Just Barbara and Betty. The last time I saw my mother wasn't something I planned. I was walking through the city on a cool fall morning. The air smelled like coffee and leaves. Then I saw her, sitting alone outside a cafe. The woman who used to be the center of every event was now just another face in the crowd. She looked up and met my eyes for a second. I wondered, would she say something? Would she apologize? Admit she was wrong? She didn't. She just lifted. Her coffee cup gave me a weak smile and looked away. Because in her mind, Laura Harrier never lost. She just moved on. And I? I had already wasted too much of my life trying to make her notice me. So I turned and walked away. This time, for good. It took a long time to stop carrying her voice in my head. That voice that always said I wasn't good enough. But here's the truth about healing. It doesn't happen all at once. It comes in small moments. When you laugh at something silly and realize you're not trying to please anyone. When you book a trip just because you want to. When you look in the mirror and finally see yourself. I didn't win by destroying my mother. I won because I created something better. Something true. Something that belonged to me. I never looked back. Because the best kind of revenge is living a life they can't ruin. Betrayal shows up in different ways. Sometimes it's loud and clear. Other times, it hides in the little cracks of the people we love. But the real question isn't just if you've been betrayed. It's what you do after. So tell me, if someone tried to erase you from their life, stole from you, rewrote your story without asking, would you fight back? Or would you walk away and build something better? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your story.